Battle of Zama, 202 BCE. Victory of the Romans, led by Scipio Africanus the Elder over the Carthaginians, commanded by Hannibal. The last and decisive battle of the Second Punic War, it effectively ended both Hannibal's command of Carthaginian forces and also Carthage's chances to significantly oppose Rome. The battle took place at a site identified by the Roman historian Livy as Naragara, now Sakiat Sidi Yusuf, Tunisia. The name Zama was given to the site, which modern historians have never precisely identified, by the Roman historian Cornelius Nepos about 150 years after the battle. By the year 203, Carthage was in great danger of attack from the forces of the Roman general Publius Cornelius Scipio, who had invaded Africa and had won an important battle barely 20 miles west of Carthage itself. The Carthaginian generals Hannibal and his brother Mago were accordingly recalled from their campaigns in Italy. Hannibal returned to Africa with his 12,000-man veteran army and soon gathered a total of 37,000 troops with which to defend the approaches to Carthage. Mago, who had sustained battle wounds during a losing engagement in Liguria, near Genoa, died at sea during the crossing. Scipio, for his part, marched up the Bagradus, Majardar River toward Carthage, seeking a decisive battle with the Carthaginians. Some of Scipio's Roman forces were reinvigorated veterans from Cannae who sought redemption from that disgraceful defeat. Once his allies had arrived, Scipio had about the same number of troops as Hannibal, around 40,000 men, but his 6,100 cavalrymen, led by the Numidian ruler Massinissa and the Roman general Gaius Laelius, were superior to the Carthaginian cavalry in both training and quantity. Because Hannibal could not transport the majority of his horses from Italy, he was forced to slaughter them to keep them from falling into Roman hands. Thus, he could field only about 4,000 cavalry, the bulk of them from a minor Numidian ally named Tychius. Hannibal arrived too late to prevent Massinissa from joining up with Scipio, leaving Scipio in a position to choose the battle site. That was a reversal of the situation in Italy, where Hannibal had held the advantage in cavalry and had typically chosen the ground. In addition to utilizing 80 war elephants that were not fully trained, Hannibal was also compelled to rely mostly upon an army of Carthaginian recruits that lacked much battle experience. Of his 3 battle lines, only his seasoned veterans from Italy, between 12,000 to 15,000 men, were accustomed to fighting Romans. They were positioned at the rear of his formation. Before the battle, Hannibal and Scipio met personally, possibly because Hannibal, perceiving that battle conditions did not favor him, hoped to negotiate a generous settlement. Scipio may have been curious to meet Hannibal, but he refused the proposed terms, stating that Carthage had broken the truce and would have to face the consequences. According to Livy, Hannibal told Scipio, "What I was years ago at Trasimene and Cannae, you are today." Scipio is said to have replied with a message for Carthage: "Prepare to fight because evidently you have found peace intolerable." The next day was set for battle. As the two armies approached each other, the Carthaginians unloosed their 80 elephants into the ranks of the Roman infantry. But the great beasts were soon dispersed and their threat neutralized. The failure of the elephant charge can likely be explained by a trio of factors, with the first 2 being well documented and most important. First, the elephants were not well trained. Second, and perhaps even more vital to the outcome, Scipio had arranged his forces in maniples, small, flexible infantry units, with broad alleys between them. He had trained his men to move to the side when the elephants charged, locking their shields and facing the alleys as the elephants passed by. That caused the elephants to run unimpeded through the lines with little, if any, engagement. Third, the loud shouts and blaring trumpets of the Romans may have disconcerted the elephants, some of which swerved to the side early in the battle and instead attacked their own infantry, causing chaos on the front line of Hannibal's recruits. Scipio's cavalry then charged the opposing Carthaginian cavalry on the wings. The latter fled and were pursued by Massinissa's forces. The Roman infantry legions then advanced and attacked Hannibal's infantry. which consisted of 3 consecutive lines of defense. The Romans crushed the soldiers of the first line, and then those of the second. However, by that time the legionnaires had become nearly exhausted, and they had yet to close with the third line, which consisted of Hannibal's veterans from his Italian campaign. At that crucial juncture, Massiniss's Numidian cavalry returned from their rout of the enemy cavalry and attacked the rear of the Carthaginian infantry, who were soon crushed between the combined Roman infantry and the cavalry assault. Some 20,000 Carthaginians died in the battle, and perhaps 20,000 were captured, while the Romans lost about 1,500 dead. The Greek historian Polybius states that Hannibal had done all that he could as a general in battle, especially considering the advantage held by his opponent. That Hannibal was fighting from a position of weakness does not in any way diminish Scipio's victory for Rome, however. With the defeat of Carthage and Hannibal, it is likely that Zama awakened in Rome a vision of a larger future for itself in the Mediterranean. The Battle of Zama left Carthage helpless, and the city accepted Scipio's peace terms, whereby it ceded Spain to Rome, surrendered most of its warships, and began paying a 50-year indemnity to Rome. Scipio was awarded the surname Africanus in tribute of his victory. Hannibal escaped from the battle and went to his estates in the east, near Hadrumetum, for some time before he returned to Carthage. For the first time in decades, Hannibal was without a military command, and never again did he lead Carthaginians into battle. The indemnity Rome set as payment from Carthage was 10,000 silver talents, more than 3 times the size of the indemnity demanded at the conclusion of the First Punic War. Although the Carthaginians had to publicly burn at least 100 ships, Scipio did not impose harsh terms on Hannibal himself, and Hannibal was soon elected as suffect, civil magistrate, by popular vote to help administer a defeated Carthage. Conclusively ending the Second Punic War with a decisive Roman victory, the Battle of Zama must be considered one of the most important battles in ancient history. Having staged a successful invasion of Africa and having vanquished its canniest and most implacable foe, Rome began its vision of a Mediterranean empire.